Happy Pride, Symphony. We're going to start this stream off with that, damn it. Happy Pride. And
Happy
hopefully we can
Pride.
be seen and heard. Bucho says we are seen and heard. Guys, happy Pride, happy Pride, happy Pride, happy Pride. We're swinging in here at the 11th hour, but damn it, we're here and we're ready to go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Symphony. Symphony Entertainment, Gaming, and Arts is my gaming company that focuses on horror systems, indie games, organic content, and player agency in an attempt to bring a symphonic approach to horror role-playing. I am your host, Bridgett Jeffries, and we are back with our monthly series known as the Symphony Lounge. This is kind of like a free-form hangout, hey, what it do, type of thing where we come together once a month, typically with a special guest. We talk, we catch up, we talk shop, we discuss relevant stuffs, celebrate the guest and or any recent streams or events, and then usually there's like a giveaway and some announcements, and we're going to get into that here in a second. This is a pretty special lounge because not only is it our official Pride Stream lounge, but it's also following the debut of Symphony's very first Kickstarter grant that the gentleman on this call actually provided for us, where we could have a fully professionally produced actual play of his Emmy Award-winning book. Now, I'm giving you a bunch of teasers. I'm going to let him speak for himself and his product very soon. Just let me get through these boring announcements and we will rock out from there. Super fast and dirty, guys. Number one, Symphony Entertainment does have a Patreon. So if you like this content and you would like to help us make more of it, please consider backing us on Patreon at patreon.com/Symphony Entertainment. We are doing a giveaway, which, Bucho, I forgot to start the giveaway. How could you let me start the stream and I forgot the giveaway? What are you doing to me, Bucho? Can y'all tell I haven't streamed in a while? All right, the giveaway is open right now. Girl, don't girl me, Bucho. Don't you dare girl me in public. Guys, our Rook Studios is offering a free PDF pick from our Rook Studio. So to enter into the drawing, you're going to do exclamation mark Rook, ROOK. That gets you into the drawing. You do have to be a follower of the channel to enter. Gabriel's getting ready to come in here and jump on my lap. Y'all love me through this Bernese Mountain Dog being really upset that I left him twice this month. And then we will do the pick at the end of the stream. Here's what you can expect. Hanging out with Richard Ruane, backer questions, a glimpse into the stream that we produced midnight on Roseville Beach, which was titled Never Let You Go, this giveaway, and then a couple announcements for what you can expect for July. So that's what we're working with. Bucho is lame because he didn't remind me to start the giveaway, and I'm never going to forgive him. And we are going to, I know, Richard, I'm really upset about it too. And we're going to start off with our special guest. Richard, for these unfortunate souls that may not know of your awesomeness, please tell these people who the hell you are.
Hey, I'm Richard Ruane. I am the founder and creator of our Rook Studio. And we publish a bunch of my games. We started with Barrow Keep, Den of Spies, which is a setting for your favorite fantasy game that is slowly morphing into its own game through some playtesting right now. We have Sherwood, My Chivalric Bromance, 2 games about medieval outlawry and exile legends. And I know I'm really selling them for the medievalist out there and not for anybody else. But really, I got a medievalist into playtest early on, and I'm like, this is who I'm making the game for. Just people with MAs in medieval studies. They're for everybody. And Moonlight on Roseville Beach, which is my game of disco and cosmic horror set in a very fictional version of Fire Island, heavily fictionalized version of Fire Island. But it started in 2019 with me grabbing an open source copy of the map of Cherry Grove, New York, and just rewriting over the street names. And that's still in the book. So we are that's sort of what I do, and that's what we're working on. And we also ran a Kickstarter this year for The Haunting of Cliff Cove, which I know Ray is in the chat and is the graphic designer for that game. And then they come out as a set of mini pamphlets later this year, and then it is going to go into the upcoming cycle for Zine Club at +1 EXP. So it'll be like collected as a set of mini zines, and then it will be actually a big zine all collected together. And by big zine, I mean all up to 36, 40 pages.
That's a big zine.
Yeah, that's a big zine.
That's a big zine. It's 2024.
Yeah. So that's sort of what we're working on right now. So
oh, amazing. So Babe, let's deep dive a little bit more into Moonlight on Roseville Beach because you said you started
You
in
don't have to ask me
2019. You
twice.
just had another
Um,
Kickstarter. You won a damn any award for it. Let's talk about this content because this is delicious, and I really think more people need to understand how delicious it is.
uh, a few years ago, in 2019, I started working on this game. It started with a joke post from Jeff Stormer on social media, saying like, "I just finished watching Hawaii Five O. I don't know why there aren't more beach detective games." And I was like, "But what about beach detectives in a gay beach town?" And I thought, like, well, it can't be police beach detectives in a gay beach town.
Right.
Uh, so it needs to be the amateur sleuths. It needs to
Yeah.
be just the people who have decided to who protects us, we protect us.
Yeah.
Uh uh and have their own sort of conflicted relationship with authorities and law enforcement, and their own desire to sort of live on the island and enjoy themselves and have
Mm-hmm.
fun, but also the commitment to keeping everybody else safe from the frightening things that are threatening uh the peace and safety of that little community.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, just because your community needs protection does not mean everyone in the community is a wonderful, lovable hug basket of a human being.
Yep.
So there's lots of awful people in town anyway,
Yep.
who are problems. Uh, and it followed a later cosmic horror tradition. Sort of Lovecraft originated in several other writers picked it up and sort of did more cool stuff with it that focuses less on like, oh my god, the universe is out to get us. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, the universe isn't necessarily out to get us. uh Specific humans are using powers in the universe to go try get people for their own sort of people for their own ends.
Whoa.
So
Yep.
that's what the most almost all of the adventures, there's a few exceptions where it's like, oh, strange gods have just taken an interest in the island on their own, but almost all the adventures focus on a human who has decided
Mm-hmm.
to invoke cosmic entities and cosmic powers to hurt queer people or to hurt other queer people.
Yep.
Um, and got some really fantastic writers to contribute those adventures, some really, really fantastic writers to help add and flesh out setting detail.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was during the very first Kickstarter. In fact, in cleaning up, I'm in the middle of a tale of two cities right now as I move from New York City to Philadelphia. In cleaning up,
Literally.
yeah, I
Literally.
found the original little zany adventure like character creation guide that I put together as a supplement for Diogo Nogueira's Dark Streets and Darker Secrets. And that was my original rule system. I didn't try to write one.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep setting details and character creation down. Uh, so we ran a Kickstarter in 2021. The book came out digitally at the end of 2022 and then
Yeah.
physically at the very beginning of 2023.
You made great time
Uh,
on that one, baby. You didn't. Y'all
oh
weren't
yeah,
playing around on that Kickstarter. You was like, bam, let's go.
yeah. And I felt like I was running so far behind, but the book just kept growing and growing and getting so much more from like the more people who collaborated and just added so much fantastic content.
Yeah.
And that was really new writers like Ezekor and Rick Chia, and some really experienced writers like Allison Seib
Uh huh.
and Kat Raman and Ann Toole. And that was really fantastic. And by the end of 2023, we were almost out of copies. So we ran a second Kickstarter to help fund more copies, but also to get a set of hardbacks. And that
Yep.
allowed us to print with Friesens, which brought our unit costs way down, way down. And the
Mm-hmm.
book is still selling pretty well. Um, so I'm pretty excited, and we're dealing with Kickstarter fulfillment on that second Kickstarter right now, which is the least fun part of Kickstarters.
Right. Right.
The least fun part of a Kickstarter is Kickstarter fulfillment, as like one of the shipping companies who was going to England just decided to be like, we haven't received any packages. I don't know how you have these tracking numbers. And then suddenly, doing nothing on our part, suddenly on 2020, and I think 2 days ago, everybody in the UK started getting their packages.
Oh, thank
I'm like,
goodness.
and it was just like,
Ooh.
I'm
Okay.
really glad found those. I wish you had not told all my customers that we had never given a package to you.
Yeah, yeah, that could
Uh,
have been some nice hurdles to avoid. But hey, thanks for somehow the miracle getting through.
and we
Ugh.
also funded this fantastic line of new PDF mysteries. They won't be added, they won't be printed out, but we have this fantastic line of new PDF mysteries
Mhm.
that includes writers like Bridgett Jeffries. I don't know if you've heard of Bridgett Jeffries, an incredible horror writer.
I heard she's
Uh,
really loud. I did hear that much, Richard. I heard she's loud
oh,
as hell.
yeah, yeah, and really, 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 just always surly. No,
Loud
absolutely
and with
fake.
an attitude. Shut up, Bucho.
Uh,
Bucho in the chat talking about she all right.
Evodicia Valetti, Mary Georgescu, Logan Rollins, um, and James Estes, who
Yes.
wrote the very first book that made me want to be like back in the '90s. Wrote a very first book that made me want to be like working in the RPG world.
What was that book?
That was just the Celestial Chorus the very first Celestial Chorus for Mage of the Ascension trad book. It was the splat book for Celestial Chorus, and James did so much cool work there. And then went on to become an ordained queer minister,
Yes.
work in the Church of Christ, and now is a section head for medievalism and religious, I think medieval studies and religion both. And I may be misunderstanding James. If you ever see this, I am sorry in advance. But at the Libraries of Congress is the section head for I know medieval studies and I think also religious studies.
Absolutely
Uh,
stunning. James, if you're hearing this and he's wrong, just like correct us all in the YouTube comments and then we'll be good to go. And then like post a link to all your stuff so we can like revel in your awesomeness too. Just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
FYI, self promo in the chat, boo boo.
So that's been the really exciting thing about sort of that second round of work is also bringing together like this really cool group of people who are
Yeah.
combining all different levels of experience and all different sort of like being in the industry in all different sorts of ways.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's how Roseville Beach like came to be. And I probably like too much background detail
No, that was
on
brilliant
that.
because I actually learned some new stuff, Richard. And I talk to you about
Oh
Moonlight
yeah.
on Roseville Beach all the time.
Oh yeah. And then okay, the game is I think what a friend told me is like, oh yeah, it's all your signature elements. It's like a site super close setting. You're heavily socially situated.
Yes.
There's a life path character creation. Um, and then there's just these ultralight rules, and you just sort of,
You
you
just
know,
go.
you
Um,
just go.
so guys, in the second Kickstarter that was just run by Richard, he included an actual play grant that Symphony was able to unlock. So thank you guys again for all your
Yeah.
backers, all the Symphony people that backed, all the people who don't even know what a Symphony is and you back. Thank you so much. Because the one thing that Kickstarter did was enabled me to bring back a okay, so let me stop just quick weird in the past thing. For Pride of 2023, myself, Keeper Chad, Rena Henze, Perry Clark, Richard Ruane all got together and we streamed Moonlight on Roseville Beach. I had come across the product on Facebook or Twitter from Indie Press
Yeah.
Revolution. I looked at it and I was like, Disco and Queer Horror, what the hell is that? So I posted a link into Symphony's chat. Symphony, of course, because Symphony mauled it. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to stream it for Pride. This is going to be a great game. And I looked at it and I was just like, I wonder if I can get the creator to stream it for me. So out of nowhere, I just reached out to Richard. I was like, "Hey, Bridgett, I have this company. Do you want to come in on stream?" And Richard's like, yeah." I was like, "Wait, like for real? Yeah." Came in and now we're married. It's great. I am absolutely
Yeah.
married.
No, I'm now one of Bridget's spouses.
Yes, it's a large polycule of my spouses. Is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. So Richard came on and he ran us through Midnight on Roseville Beach, and we all absolutely fell in love with it. Several people from Symphony started picking it up, started running with it. Amy is running it right now, so she just got done running it at Origins. The Matt Ryan is a big fan of Moonlight on Roseville Beach. So all of this hype, all this hype, all this hype. That was in 2023. Fast forward to 2024, the Kickstarter happened. We got our pledge unlocked. Richard actually paid me to do an actual play production of this game, which then allowed me to pay the cast to perform and also pay to have a real producer come in. So I was able to pay all of our cast members. I ran the content that I plan on writing for the PDF, which is Never Let You Go. So you guys will see that here very soon. And then I was able to pay V from Queen's Court Games to come in and do the most delicious editing, polishing, sound check job in production history. And guys, if you haven't messed with Queen Court's game, go love on them because they are queer and allies and sweet, and they're just incredible storytellers, and they're just good fucking people. Anyways, that just debuted last week, all 3 episodes. A bot is going to show up here in a second. But I was telling you that whole story, wanted to give Richard a break, so if he wanted to get water or anything, he had some downtime. But also to say, it's not just amateur sleuths on like a queer island that has all this beautiful nuance and texture. The majority of the sleuths are all like supernatural in some way, which adds another flavor profile of deliciousness to this storytelling. So, Richard, here's one of your backer questions, baby, that I was sent on Patreon. Are they called classes in this game? They're called classes, right?
I call them origin stories. So
origin stories. Which is your
yeah.
favorite origin stories out of the ones in the book?
You know, of the ones in the book, because there's also another zine out there of extra origin stories called the Character Zine in the Moonlight Roseville Beach Zine series. Of the ones in the book, my absolute favorite is a toss-up between the Shifter and the Fresh Face.
Oh,
The Fresh
okay,
Face, because I don't want to, because I came out a little bit later in my 20s, so I never got to be a baby gay.
Oh,
And
okay.
I just, it's my like, oh yeah, I want to be the 19-year-old queer kid, and that's my origin story. Is I came out queer. It's 1979. What do you do except run away to a gay resort?
Right, right.
Resort,
Let's
how to
go.
get a job. And the Shifter, just because, oh my God, Bridgett, just I'm ultra basic and I love playing shifters. uh,
Okay, what do you typically shift in? What's your default flavor profile there? Is it usually
oh my
canine? Is it
God, yeah,
feline? Do you go mythical creature? What do you
it's
typically
it's
shift?
it's it's mega canine.
You go dog.
Wolf. It's wolf.
It's wolf.
100%, just wolf.
Oh God, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I have not done the shifter yet. I've done the fresh face, and I've done. Is it the witch?
Oh,
No.
the witch is really good. I
Yes,
love
the
the witch.
witch and the baby, or the baby, the fresh face I've done,
Yeah,
which are great. So
I
the
should
ones
have called it the baby. Yeah,
the baby would have been good. Reprint number 3, we can call it the baby,
yeah. No,
but it
when we
needs
were
to be
doing the
the
edition, we
baby.
renamed it to the baby.
The baby. So, guys, the cool thing about this is, so the very first time I played this game was live on stream with Richard. I didn't know the rules, but they were super intuitive. So once you went through them once, you're like, oh, okay, got it. So it's narrative heavy. That's my type of storytelling, anyways. And like he had a cool tracker that we used on Google Sheets and blah 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 blah. So then I hadn't played the game for a while, and I was getting ready to write for it and run it. I was like, okay, I need to pick up this book again. I need to get prepared. And if anyone has ever written for commissioned content on a product or a book that they're not super familiar with, there's kind of like this hurdle because you have to relearn the setting, and then you have to relearn the rules, and then you have to relearn the author's vision, and then you start writing, and then you have to back into all that shit again. So I was just like, oh God, okay. So I was already grieving. I didn't have my shit together. I was like, let me get ready. Guys, you can pick up this entire book. And for me, I read it, I think, in from cover to cover in about 35 minutes on a flight, and had everything that I needed to know. It is that easy to pick up, metabolize, and just go, because so much of the storytelling is based on the characters. The rules are super light and like non-invasive, and it's just delicious, 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 delicious environment that's very easy to connect to. So for all of that, Richard, congratulations. Like
Oh,
congratulations,
thank you,
congratulations,
thank you. No,
congratulations,
it has been
congratulations.
so much fun to write. It's been so much fun to read. I think one of the sad things about modern life, and Bridget and I before the stream were talking about like out of control U.S. inflation,
Yes,
uh,
Lord.
and the way like things that are vaguely luxury in the classic sense of just meaning like not necessarily essential have been getting luxury item prices and escalating more and more. And I like to remember a period when spaces that were safe for gay people were never necessarily ultra cheap. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
anybody could safely run away to there, but there were places that were more accessible to more people.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many of our queer safe spaces are becoming exclusive for the ultra elite.
Yeah.
Certainly, like living in the big gay areas of New York
Uh-huh.
or San Francisco now is completely out of the reach of an absurd number of queer young people, aging queer people.
Yeah.
Uh, and even, to a lesser extent, the old classic areas of Chicago, where resorts are becoming increasingly just like, ha ha ha, would you like a house to here for a week?
For
Good
a week.
luck.
A week might be a stretch too. Do you want to rent by the hour? Because that's about what you can afford.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And more and kind of more exclusive. And they're beautiful places, and they have so much
Yeah.
beautiful, powerful history.
Yep.
They ultra important to queer literature.
Yep.
Uh, and I'm merely just talking about Fire Island here.
Mm-hmm.
Fire Island has been a place that yeah, everyone from Walt Whitman to and I don't know that Walt Whitman was, I think, near there, but everyone from W.H. Auden to Patricia Highsmith, and I should name some writers who aren't terrible people. Um, uh, uh, Baldwin, Frank O'Hara, yeah, that Frank O'Hara famously died on Fire Island. Those
Mm.
are places that were so essential to queer identity and queer arts, and they're increasingly out of reach. And I kind of want to remember that time when they were not perfect, but way
Yeah.
more accessible, and a place that the average queer person could figure out a way to get there and spend some time.
Yeah.
Uh, and I forget how I got off on that tangent, but yeah, that's sort of like going back in time and being in 1979, where a school teacher could just get a place for the weekend on a school teacher salary, and go out there for a little bit of summer vacation.
Yeah. And actually
Uh,
enjoy and be in that space that's been reserved for him. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, that is not the situation in 2024, honey, because when I say the struggle is
Oh
whole
no.
real, it is so whole real. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next backer question I have for you here. You already answered one of them, which was what was your inspiration for Moonlight on Roseville Beach. So you already jumped out on front of that, and then you
Oh
made a
yeah.
statement that I thought was hilarious. Like the least fun part of running a Kickstarter is the fulfillment, which is hysterically like the 11th hour of almost being done with that damn thing. This
Uh,
is coming from a backer. What are some of the biggest production challenges for indie press publishers?
I think there is a tendency to either go with Mixam, which once you start producing, and Mixam is super competitive in the zine size space. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're printing something in that 24 to 40, 44, even 60 page spread, Mixam's going to be super competitive for you.
Yeah.
Um, Once you get to full size book, it's really a struggle. Uh, but figuring out what to do from there, if you're not
Yeah.
working with a production consultant who has a lot of like
Yep.
production editing experience, uh, is really scary. And it's going to be tempting to do like, oh, why didn't I just print with Mixam? And it's because your unit cost is going to be twice what they might normally be. My unit cost with Mixam is 7, which is not the worst.
Okay.
Uh, but uh, going international can drop your unit costs down below $4. I was able to the other thing that like that no one tells you when you first get in is um some of the best physical printers in North America
Mm-hmm.
are yearbook printers. They're Jostens, they're I think Baker and Taylor, and I may be misremembering what Baker and Taylor does. And Friesens are the big three. All of them, depending on time of year, depending on what else is on their schedule, can give you a competitive quote.
Okay.
Uh, and that's never around the summer when every high school yearbook is suddenly hitting
Is
them.
suddenly hitting them. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. They need to schedule out faster. They need to schedule out not faster. They need to schedule out more carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and they need to and their quotes are going to go up and down.
Okay.
Yeah, one year they'll be like, oh yeah, we can do it for this much, and a year later it'll be $1,000 cheaper because they have an opening in their schedule to
Yeah.
fill.
Yep.
Uh, and their quoting department has already established credit with you or something like that, or
Gotcha.
they already have the plates of your book. The nice thing about these printers is they do offset printing, which always looks better, but it's also way cheaper when you do reprint new print runs because they save those
Mm.
plates. Something that Mixam doesn't do. The other thing is like printing internationally, especially in China. And I know lots of lots of people like, oh no, there's all sorts of considerations, but that's what makes beautiful, exquisitely lovely games like Wanderhome affordable. That
Mm,
is the main reason that you can get Wanderhome for less than $150.
gotcha.
Uh, that Wanderhome is in the 30 to 35 to 45 range instead of the and that's not coming necessarily from Jay or Grub, but just like looking at like just quotes internationally. So that is the biggest thing that for me was such a massive learning curve.
Yeah.
Figuring out how do you get these books out without uh, charging people $1,000 for the book,
Right. How do you make the book
which really
accessible to
cuts into
the
your yeah
audience? Yeah.
yeah or and also like making sure that you make enough printing the book that it's
Yep.
worthwhile to
That is
keep going
worth it.
because we've had so many great games, and I won't name any specific people here because I don't want to invite criticism of them, but it's a uh, there's so many great games that have gone off the market because the creator just could not find an affordable way to keep them in
To keep
business.
them in production. It's Richard, we've had this conversation so many times. If you guys didn't know, Richard is like my con husband. If we're at the same con together,
Oh yeah,
wherever
yeah, we're
Richard
just
is,
we're
I'm 10 minutes
inseparable.
away or right on his shadow.
Yeah.
But I remember us having this conversation in depth. We were walking along the beach at Bid Bad Con, and we were having this conversation where so many brilliant writers and creators get into the TTRPG space, and they are hobbyists that are looking to monetize, they're looking to go professional, they're looking to publish, they're looking to get their names out there, and they've got the talent, they've got the writing, they've got the product, and then they hit this wall when it comes to the actual business half of it. How are you budgeting? What can you actually afford to pay people? What does shipping look like? How do you manage that? Are you dealing with your inventory? And all of that gets very cumbersome and very overwhelming very fast. I mean, all the way down to just how are you handling your taxes? How are you expensing things? And it's a frustrating wall to get across, but it's one that we all hit when we're coming in with like the I'm a creator. Yes, you are. I'm brilliant. Yes, you are. I have a thing. Yes, you do. Okay, but how do I market this thing? How do I get this thing in
How do I
people's
get it
hands?
out? How do I get it out there in a world with when we're friends of ours,
Yeah.
uh, folks like Possum Creek and MythWorks
Mm-hmm.
are just putting out these gorgeous products. And it can feel intimidating to sort of step into uh, that light and like
Yeah.
gorgeous, creative, beautifully put together, uh, beautifully structured products. And it can feel kind of intimidating to
Yeah.
sort of like show up and go like, I think I've got a zine idea. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and that's I think one of the things that as because printing is not just inflation thing, it's just all of the math. But like one
Yep.
day it'll be like $500 cheaper to print 200 books than it was last year, and the next day it will be like $500 more expensive than it was at its most expensive
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
uh because that's just the way the nature of printing and quoting works,
Yep.
unfortunately. And it's super frustrating, but yeah, managing those business side. And I run an interview stream, a monthly interview stream that I'm hoping will go twice monthly soon, called Wizard Killers, which I have interviewed Bridgett for, and we're going to do a redo of that interview because we had some audio issues that I didn't discover until we were going live.
Also,
uh
we were recording in a box that was this big
oh
at a
yeah, the only quiet
hotel
space we could
in
find
Toronto.
that we could find at the end of a con when we're both like
Yeah, we were in a box this
uh
big with people walking by. It was a glass front. It was good times. I felt so close to you during that hour, Richard. You
oh, we were
because we
we
were
were
like
super
this.
close. We're super close.
We were so
But
close.
one of the things that we try to do on Wizard Killers is save segments, periodic segments to just hit those business questions.
Yeah.
So we've had great conversations with Lauren Belanco of 20 Sided Store in Brooklyn about pricing games and
Mm-hmm.
why, sort of why the pricing of games works the way it does.
Yep.
Uh, and like especially physical print, physical copies. Uh, We've had great conversations with Logan Dean about writing horror. We've had conversations about what to do if your Kickstarter fails.
Yep.
And one of the things I really want to do is just like, more stuff on the business side
Mm-hmm.
of of running an RPG.
Absolutely.
And I'm passionate about teaching writing too. So we're gonna do more on like editing and research and we've got an upcoming episode. It's going to be, which we haven't scheduled yet. It's probably going to be an Ask a Medievalist episode. So much of what we
Oh,
do is medieval fantasy. So
that'd be delicious.
or
Yes.
fantasy with roots in the Middle Ages. So Ask a Medievalist is one of those things I'm really looking forward to. Uh,
Good.
yeah.
Oh, actually,
Uh,
I was gonna say
so
that's
that's sort of that's the challenging thing about production is all the business decisions, including making that initial, especially once you get to the thing where you need to print more than a few hundred copies, you need to print
yeah,
100, 900, 1,000, or more than 1,000.
yeah.
Making those business decisions is
And that's tough. Like, where do you find the money if
yeah.
you don't have it on your front end? Is it worth the risk? Are you sure? I mean, it's so. Do you have baby? Do you have a link that you can send me really fast, or you could post in the chat with that podcast?
Oh yeah, Wizard Killers. Sorry, let me type it in to make sure I can get it.
Uh huh. Nope, you are good. If Bucho were on his
Yep,
job, he could have
here
put
we
it in the
go.
chat.
It is part of the Plus One Experience Network, and I'm going to put it in our chat, right?
Perfect. Yep. And then I can just CC it
Yep.
right on over. Oh, I love your face right now.
Yep,
All
it's
right.
part of Tony Vicenda's Plus One Experience, and that's no longer just Tony Vicenda. It's Keegan X and Sarah and Tony, all in the ownership role there, uh, at Plus One Experience, and we run the Wizard Kill. I run the Wizard Killer stream there. Uh,
Amazing. Chat, I just put that in for you guys. So if you're looking at the timestamp, you can grab that right there. And I'll also have it in the YouTube show notes too, if you guys just drop to the description below. Perfect.
uh,
All
and
right.
Tony's best marketing decision was discovering that ttrg.link was an open URL and nabbing it for all the URL shortening.
He's like, we hopped on that
Huh?
quick, fast, in a hurry. Hey, thanks, Bucho. I don't know what I would do without Bucho, y'all. Bucho be coming through swinging. All right, Richard. Next question for you here.
Oh,
Oh, here's an interesting one. When you think about horror and creating, do you approach classic monster horror differently than cosmic horror? You touched on this interestingly before, and I loved your the way you distinguish the difference between cosmic horror, like the universe doesn't care about you. These entities don't give a damn about you. It's usually humans trying to do some silly shit to other humans. So this is
yeah.
interesting. How do you approach, or when you think of horror and creating, do you approach classic monster horror differently than cosmic horror?
My instinct is kind of formed less particularly by Lovecraft and more by Clive Barker.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's, Clive Barker has certainly written enough. It's
We've
hard to
had
make
this
a bunch
conversation.
of really great
Yes,
things
yes, yes, yes. Keep going, keep
about
going. Sorry.
Clive Barker. But usually in the background of a Clive Barker story or a Stephen King story, there
Mm-hmm.
is a person who is manipulating things,
Yeah.
or there is a person with a name who is manipulating things. Randall Flagg may or may not really be a human, uh, in the Stand or any of the thousand other places that Randall Flagg shows up. But I think my touchstone for the kind of stuff I like to write is frequently like Cabal,
Uh
or
huh.
which the movie Nightbreed, uh, which I had forgotten about for so long until several years ago I saw the Miskatonic University uh, podcast episode on it, and that was like my reintroduction to reading and watching Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Uh, and But usually there's a human behind that, and it's true in Books of Blood. It's
Mm-hmm.
true in Hellraiser. As much as Pinhead is this vast entity worshiping pain who's just there and present,
Yep.
he enters the story of Hellraiser because a human summons him.
Because a human. Yep.
Yeah, because a human decides to summon him and inflict him on other people.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's an important part of sort of like the way I approach horror,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in sort of the more classic, uh, whether it's in the more classic kind of cosmic mode, or whether it's more in a monster of the week mode.
Yeah.
I like to have, and I think this is also the influence of both Scooby-Doo and Giallo, which we can talk about at some point. That there's, even in the supernatural elements of Scooby-Doo, the best supernatural Scooby-Doo stories, once they started adding supernatural elements back, are always about a human.
Always better human. Yeah.
Giallo, when you add back supernatural into when supernatural shows up in Giallo, it's always because a human
A
decided to
human
do
is doing
something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's true in the non-supernatural Scooby-Doo. It's true in the non-supernatural Giallo. Uh, so there's always something uh sort of a human has done that has
Mm-hmm.
screwed things and made it worse, no matter what supernatural entities or things out there. And we've all lived through, like, there's also uncontrollable disasters and terrors and fears
Yep.
that we have.
Yep. Those acts
Um,
of God, those things that no human had any
yeah.
influence or impact on whatsoever. Right.
And certainly not the people who suffered.
Right.
Uh, but it's more compelling as a horror story for me if there is especially in an RPG,
Yeah.
if there is somebody that you can confront.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. It gives
that's
you
all.
a targeted
Yeah.
focus. It helps you feel more empowered in that moment. And then also it's very easy to reverse back engineering the plot to go and like, oh, this individual had this goal and this is why this happened. You can streamline it easier. No,
Yeah,
well
yeah, yeah,
said.
yeah. And I've seen some really compelling stuff. Cecil's How Do Not Let Us Die in the Dark of This Cold Winter is a really fantastic winter survival game. There's some really
Oh.
compelling stuff about sort of those natural disasters, acts of God,
Yeah.
things that you can't like influence or change,
Yeah.
that human create, specifically invited. Uh, but frequently those are compelling because there's humans who are not going to work towards everybody surviving.
Right. Right. Oh, good
Um,
articulation. Yep.
yeah, there's still human decisions coming in
Mm-hmm.
there that are harmful
Yeah.
in some way. Like there's not a compelling storm survival, winter survival, terrible environment survival story in which everybody is cooperating
Correct.
and
Correct.
and getting,
Correct.
yeah.
Those
Uh
environmental factors drive a lot. It's one thing we love all about the mist, right? You've got this weird cosmic of
yeah.
everything happening in the background. It's like that's great, it's in the background, but the real story is how humans started breaking down upon each other in the middle of
Yes,
that
right.
crisis.
Yeah.
The decisions they make to try to save other people, like those are the compelling moments that stick with. Yeah, the monsters outside are, monstrous and they don't give a damn about you, but really it's the
Right,
humans and the
right,
human decisions.
right, right.
So that's something I was particularly a fan of with this book, Richard. So the again, the very first time I played it, you ran it. And it was like the game started and we were all at a drag show and we had these real cool potential love interests that we were connecting with. And the way that you storytell, you tee up people to kind of like make their own story to dive into, which is just a great storytelling mechanic. And so we shared like laughs and we were making a lot of fun gay jokes and it was upbeat. And then like the mystery hit and then we started sleuthing around and we started investigating. And like we had this amazing moment, which by the way, it won. Rich, I don't know if I think I sent this to you. It won a Symphony Spotlight moment at our award ceremony at the end of
Oh,
2023. The scene where Rue, my character, the baby
uh,
gay, tried to out the other characters because she just thought everyone was out and it was safe to be out, and everyone was like, "Little girl, come here. That's you can't." It was a great moment. It was great commentary on like modern day outing your friends, but
oh yeah.
anyways, it was very upbeat. It was very fun. So I looked at the content and I was just like, I wonder how dark I can make it. And that's what I did with Never Let You Go. I
Hmm.
won't do a lot of spoilers because this content just aired last week, but I will say this much. I have the environmental aspect that's also being controlled by a person. But the one thing I didn't want to do is villainize this person to the point that they weren't recognizable. And I also wanted to see how far I could push the dark empathy with other players. So I leaned into grief, which is
Uh,
something I've been dealing with like massively for the past year. So I
right.
doubled down on all those factors, and it just brought out this really heart-wrenching, heartbreaking story. We're cast lean completely in. We factor in a lot of aspects as far as like psychological trauma and childhood trauma with like the activation of imaginary friends, what safe places and safe spaces look like for you, what happens when those places are taken away from you, what happens when people are faced with a unified threat. And it's just absolutely brilliant storytelling. We didn't do a lot of laughing. We didn't do a lot of flirting. We didn't have a lot of fun. The
Mhm.
other thing that I did, Richard, and this is leading to the next question I have for you, so remind me to do this one. Um,
Mhm.
Roseville Beach is like Queer Island, where most people are out and queer and it's fine. What I did is like, okay, so most people are out. I'm going to make people closet their supernatural abilities, which added another cool, because the book didn't say I couldn't do it, which I absolutely love
Oh
about the
yeah,
book.
yeah,
The book is like live the truth you want to live. So I put people in the closet for their supernatural abilities and made them navigate a world of what
yeah.
happens when your queer friend that apparently is, because you're queer, you're friends. That's not the case. Just because you're a quote queer means you're safe. That's not the case. What happens when they look at you as an outsider for a different reason? So we explored all of
Oh,
those things in the actual play, which is absolutely amazing. But I'm saying all of that to say there's a versatility in this book that's really cool, because you can go have a great queer gay time and be a witch or a wolf or throw spells around, or you can really dive deep into the cosmic horror and the personal horror, and the rules and the setting accommodate it. That's impressive, Richard. A lot of books can't do that, and the fact that you got that off on this one is super, super impressive. So that was my rant and my compliment to you. My question for you is, um, in your mind, do you have Soups being out in this setting, in this world, or do you have them mostly being closeted? Because it's not technically addressed, and
I
I'm just curious how you have it in your head.
in my head, it's a little more private and closeted.
Okay.
Now that can be comic,
Uh
much like
huh.
it is frequent sometimes is in comics, like, oh yeah, no, I gotta change clothes real quick. I gotta get on my car to the state.
Right.
Uh or it can be frightening and disturbing and tragic, much like it
Yeah.
sometimes is in comics.
Yeah.
Uh but like no, like the average person is not going to go around knowing like, oh, there's three werewolves somewhere in town right now, and there's a couple of werefoxes, and that cat over there is actually sentient. Um,
Right. So in
um,
your head, they're closeted too.
yeah,
Okay.
in my head, supernatural and like people are, there's an occult books like much like the real 70s or the
Yep.
real like now or the real 19th, 20th, 21st centuries. There's occult bookstores around.
Yeah.
So people know that people practice what they believe is magic. They don't know that some people make magic work.
Right.
Uh, so that's for me. Uh, and also, even the people in the occult bookstore would be like, well, no, you can't actually summon a demon, like, in like the sense that we do. We mean more of like a metaphysical, metaphorical.
Right. And then you have like somebody who's like standing is like, no, I can actually summon demons, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you live whatever truth you feel like over there, baby.
Right, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
the town, the town as comes out in the adventures, and it comes out a little
Mhm.
bit in the recent adventure Bracknell horror. Um, has had a long history of magical practitioners coming there and living there,
Yeah.
because for a lot of the year you can live in a certain degree of isolation.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and there's not you're not surrounded constantly by demands, and like you can get a job and it's going to give you your evenings off to do,
Yeah.
summon demons or whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, or hellish, extra dimensional energies.
Yeah. And I love that that's a real thing in this game, babe. Like, okay, let's take Call of Cthulhu. We all have occupations in Call of Cthulhu. That's a thing. But unless you're doing
Yeah.
campaign play, you're never really actually being seen at work. Your occupation
Yeah.
becomes like just like a floating resume that's like your character sheet that kind of gives you an idea of what your character could or should be doing. Like, nah, in this book, you need to go to work.
You do need to go to
you,
work.
you
That
have a
is
whole ass
absolutely
job. Go to work.
and it's I love situating people in a very specific place, because also and this is not just Call of Cthulhu, anything where you're gonna do a lot of globetrotting,
Yeah,
it's really hard to be present at your job
that's not a thing.
or interact with your town or like,
Right.
talk to the people down the block from you.
Yeah,
Uh is not necessarily an important thing, but in Roseville Beach,
that's the
there's
connective
only
tissue.
so many there's only so many people who are in town on a consistent basis. There's lots of
Correct.
tourists,
Yep.
there's lots of renters, there's lots of 1 week visitors, there's lots of weekend visitors, day trippers, but the people who are consistently there
Uh
are
huh.
a relatively small group.
Yeah.
uh yeah.
It's a
So you're
community, an actual community
yeah.
where
And
you
so
have
like
to go
that
to work.
job situates you on where you know them from.
Yes.
And it's also for adventure writers a beautiful reason to just say, no, you actually know. the
Correct.
bartender, like, there's only one bar where you can get a job as a bartender in the game, just to simplify the life of everybody.
Yep. Bam.
Um, but because it's not a big town as far
Yeah.
as permanent residents are concerned, you know the bartenders at all the other bars, you know
Right.
the waiter, the restaurant, you know the
You know
drag
them.
performer, even, yeah, you know them. All I have to tell you at the beginning is like, yeah, hey, here's NPCs,
Yep. And
uh
go.
like it's like I don't have to introduce you to the NPCs for the first time, because in Bracknell Horror, there's a guy who's the local pot dealer.
Hmm.
Whether or not you're using, you know the
You
local
know
pot
him.
dealer.
You know who
Yeah,
he is. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that
You
aspect of
know
the
the bouncer at the
storytelling.
dance club, yeah, and so it's just like I want those small spaces that
Yeah.
come under threat. I thought one of the beautiful stories about the origin of role playing from war games, and it's, there's lots of origins of role playing uh in the beginning in the 50s and going into the 70s, when we invented D&D, when Gary Gygax supposedly invented D&D, when Dave Arneson invented D&D. Um, um, is for so many communities. Oh,
You're getting the
what?
balloons.
What?
So
Um,
Apple has this
oh,
thing. If you do certain commands, certain things can happen. So something you did with your hand motions gave you balloons, which was super funny at that dance.
oh, oh, I thought maybe somebody else had done it.
No, no, no.
Uh,
It's something you did
because
with
I
your
had said
hands
something mean about Gary
gave us
Gygax.
balloons.
Um,
Sorry, war
but
games, D&D, the creation of role playing games, small
uh,
spaces.
the, the thing I think that one of the things that broke several groups out of the like tactical fighting into having stakes is that Western RPG, and I still have conflicted feelings about Western RPGs just because I have conflicted feelings about Westerns, but that Western RPG, well, all of a sudden you had to you had to defend the town.
Yeah,
And this is a town like you had settled in, you had been there,
yeah,
so all of a sudden you're like, no, you can't shoot these people.
right. The home
Yeah,
is
yeah, you
under
can't
threat.
just ride in it. Like, yeah, I've got to protect these people. So I think
Yeah,
that's always been, whether you're in horror, whether you're in fantasy, that sort of like you've got to keep this group of people safe.
right.
And it's a consistent group of people. It's not just, you're not roving the globe finding new people. You're not adventure boomer,
No, you're right here. You're in your
never
backyard. You're
settled
home.
down. You've settled down, yeah.
Yeah,
And you live here in Roseville Beach. You work here,
yeah,
and you may not like everybody,
right.
uh, but they you probably don't hate them enough to want them to get eaten by some Cthulhuid entity.
Correct. And then there's that added allegiance. Not only is it just home, but you know that there aren't a lot of spaces out there like that. And it makes you want to protect it and fight for it even more, which is just kind of like brilliant
Yeah,
writing into it. So, Richard, something I did to my characters in the Never Let You Go thing, because to your point, it's occupations like actual working is a great way for a writer to embed themselves or integrate a character or an NPC or whatever into the world. So what I did is I had all of the characters arrive in the off season when like the storms were hitting and the tourists were gone, which also meant that the job population was really low. So there weren't a whole lot of the tourists are gone. You don't have a
nice.
whole lot of work. So I didn't let any of the PCs come in with their preferred professions. So somebody was like in school for like political science and politics. I was like, great. The only job on the island for you right now is to be picking up trash off the beach. That's what you're doing. That's what you've got.
Nice,
And
yeah.
it was somebody else was just like, no, I have like this cool desk job. It's like, great. The only job they have available for you is working a warehouse and offloading things. So you're going to go do manual labor because it's
Yeah,
off season. You get what you get. And that added such a fun, their frustration with their work lives added so much character to their stories and the storytelling at
that's
all. Why?
beautiful.
Because in the game, your occupation matters.
Yeah, no, I in the original game I gave them six options for a current job,
Yeah.
because I was like, well, you you showed up on the
Yeah.
island in May and said like, well, I'd like to live here for the summer. I'm gonna need a job.
Yep.
There's six places that we're hiring.
Yep.
You
That's
know,
all you get.
you're in one of those places.
Right. But it's just so cool because you're so used to just being handed an occupation at
Right.
the start of the game and
And
saying
again,
go.
super small town, a resort community. There's not a temp agency there, because
No.
there's not places that have lots of desk jobs
Right. Right. Right.
that are not like, retail focused, or like hospitality.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I work at the insurance agency. The insurance agency's back on the
It's
mainland.
back on
Good
the
luck.
mainland. No, no, boo boo.
Yeah,
This is island life where time seems to slow. The infrastructure doesn't grow with you. Like, no, 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 boo boo. At
yeah,
one point,
yeah.
there was a point in the mystery where like they stopped being able to get certain produce in. So like cheese stopped coming in, and eggs and milk
Oh,
stopped coming in because of storms. And it's just like, nah, boo. Welcome to island life. This ain't. Hey, pick up a phone call and get your life together. Richard, I knew this was gonna happen because I like talking to you. If you can believe this shit right now, we are already at an hour, if you can believe it. I know. I don't know how it happened either, but
it's like the two of us talking, and we just go.
I told somebody on the Discord, I was like, nah, you put Richard and I on a phone call together. We're going to be there for a minute. Okay, let me make sure I got all the backer questions out the
Huh?
way. Um, this is just the last one. I'll tee up this last one, and then I'll give you guys some quick Symphony announcements. We'll do the drawing, and we're gonna get out of here. Richard, what sparked your first interest in the horror games? What got your attention in horror for the first time? Shut up,
You know,
Mucho. He says
it's
unsurprising. We talk too much. I know.
I would be offended, except I didn't. If you don't talk to Bridgett Jeffries, I don't know what's wrong with you.
I love you too, baby. Sorry. What was your
Um,
first exposure or your first interest into horror?
so really, I didn't think of it as horror at the time because it was kind of the birth of our modern understanding of what we call urban fantasy, or we started
Uh
calling it
huh.
urban fantasy in the 80s and 90s. So my first really introduction to it was World of Darkness.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
And I
That's a
love sort of the
common one.
dark fantasy elements of it, but the plots were not really necessarily what people would now think of horror plots. They would group
Mm-mm.
them more in the urban fantasy world. But like, it's just the love of factions and factions you didn't necessarily choose, or like you as a player chose
Yeah.
your character did not necessarily choose those factions. They sort of like
Yes.
it had a lot to do with where they were born, and or in Mage it was sort of who was with you when you woke up, or who found you when
Yeah.
you awakened, when you went through your awakening process.
Yeah.
uh and in Vampire it's like who bit you.
Who bit you?
You,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
you
can
don't
walk
you
in
didn't
and
go
be
like, well,
grappled.
I'm applying with the Tremere right now. But I'd accept a job with Toreador. It's just like, no,
No, no, no.
you
Yeah. Yeah. Who bit
who
you?
decided to take you.
Yeah.
uh
Let's suffer and go.
Werewolf, it's where were you born.
Yeah.
uh Changeling, it's much the same. Where were you born? Who were you born as?
Yeah.
Uh, and then the political factions frequently have less to do with what you truly believe about the world and more to do with like, I am living in a Camarilla city,
Correct.
so I guess Camarilla, or I'm living in an Anarch town.
So I guess yeah.
I'm an Anarch, yeah. Or the Sabbat made me.
Yeah.
Do I
So
have
I
a
guess
choice?
I'm here. I'm bloodbound. I'm not going
Yeah,
anywhere, apparently. Is this slavery or
yeah.
am I happy?
Is it? Oh, cool.
Some thoughts and prayers, I guess.
Um, and so I love the way factions and overlapping factions work in World of Darkness, and that was
Agreed.
and the dark fantasy elements of it, so that you're having to make desperate decisions where you can't just fall back on law enforcement.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you
Oh, wow.
gotta
That sounds familiar.
you gotta take people out and hide the bodies, and like, because officer, I'm sorry, we had to kill a bunch of vampires. No, I promise they were
Oh,
vampires.
right.
I
Yeah. I feel
absolutely promise they were vampires.
like that first tradition is about to get everyone killed. Let's go. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. The or there's so many things um that just work really beautifully in the way the World of Darkness is set up, and that adds
Yeah.
the dark fantasy element, adds the factions element.
Yeah.
Uh and I didn't really start coming back to horror media until the 2010s.
Okay.
To real horror media until the 2010s. Um when I finally, I tried in high school to read Stephen King, and that was during like the first few books were like Cujo and Christine.
Okay.
Um, and I know there's people who are fans of those books, and I don't
Hmm.
mean to insult you. Those I bounced off hard of that kind of Stephen King tradition. So I was really surprised when I went back to the early Stephen King, and I loved every bit of it.
Yeah.
I started reading Clive Barker again, um, and really loved all of that. Read some pulp horror.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really loved that. Started going back to horror media and horror
Yeah.
movies. horror podcast
Yep.
brought me in hard. Um, uh, Magnus Archives, and even going back to
I just
Escape,
started
another
with that too.
uh,
Oh.
Pseudopod, one of the earliest horror podcasts, and Magnus Archives, Old Gods of Appalachia,
Yep.
and then Italian Giallo, and I'd sort of grown up during the era when horror was synonymous with slasher, and so I was, I don't mind slasher. I'll watch slasher with friends, like American tradition slashers with friends,
Yeah.
uh, but they never really held my interest in a deep way. And discovering like other components and dimensions,
Yeah.
stories in the horror sphere. And so like going back and rewatching all the Hammer classics and going back and watching um Argento and Bava
Mm.
and names, come on.
Oh, you was
uh
like, what on a what
uh,
day is it right now? Wednesday night. Listen, we doing the best we can with what we
yeah.
got, baby.
And George Romero's old zombie movies, and then also sort of coming back and like rediscovering or reconsidering urban fantasy and looking at sort of how that
Right,
fit
and what
in,
that looks like. Yeah, especially from that lens. Yeah.
especially now that like we're entering a little more careful stage when everything is not just like kitchen sink.
Correct. Correct.
You're in the
Correct.
normal world, you're in the normal world, except every other person is a werewolf.
Ha ha. Yep. Nope. Well
There's
said.
20 witches, yeah, on this block.
Just on this block. Just on this block.
Oh no, it's
Oh,
a vampire attack. And that can be a lot of fun, but
it can be.
sometimes it's just, yeah, that sometimes it's just like we have that has happened.
That's happened. That's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we have had a lot of that. Um, and I think uh as much as I enjoy some older horror gaming, it's the modern game liminal horror that really sort of
Liminal horror.
uh,
Yeah, you're a big fan
yeah,
of that. Yep.
I'm a huge fan of liminal horror.
Yeah.
Uh,
We've had so many
the
conversations about liminal horror.
Goblin
Yes.
Archive you're watching. I don't
I'm
know
right here,
why I'm
guys.
not hands
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
response.
Do the thumbs touching
Oh
at the
yeah.
bottom. There you
Oh
go.
yeah.
There you go. There you go. Yep. 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 There it is.
There we
There
go.
we go. Now we're cooking
Uh
with grease. Let's rock.
if you're in that liminal horror community, Mothership was a big especially those modules. Um those Mothership modules were just on point, just explored some like written for space horror in the alien tradition, and then
Yeah.
just exploring so many different components, aspects of things that can happen in space or go wrong in space, from like weird towns in the middle of nowhere,
Oh God.
the
Yeah.
existential horror of like a haunted space station, isolation survival, run from
The
the
isolation
monster,
survival is so delicious over there. Oh.
weird cyberpunk horror in the station's name is Prospero's Dream, and the Pound of Flesh is the name of the module. Just so much going on in RPGs and horror that's just so fantastic right now.
Yeah.
And it just amazed me that the Call of Cthulhu fan base is coming through and being part of like that expansion, that
Yeah.
expansive sort of what horror is about and what it contains.
Yep. How you
Uh,
can approach it, different flavor profiles to it. Absolutely. Yeah. And then we run
Challenge
deep too.
driven. I forgot that I've unplugged the lamp. So as the sun is going down, I'm going to reach over real quick and plug this lamp
And
in.
plug the lamp in.
I've
And
got,
actually, we're at time. So that is actually
oh, we
perfect.
are at time.
We are at
So
time.
we've
Yes,
gotten
honey.
increasingly dark as the sun has gone down.
Yes, the mood and the
Um,
vibe.
in New York City, waving at but yeah, we are at time.
We
So
are at
that's
time. We are cooking in grease, guys. Okay, Symphony, let's do this giveaway really fast, which I know who the winner is right now, which is super fun, but I'm going to publicize it for you guys. Congratulations, Lamb Fam, who has just run a free PDF pick from our Rook Studio. So, Lamb Fam, baby, what I need you to do is email me at symphonyentertainmentga@gmail.com. Give me about a week. Richard's in the middle of relocating and lifing and things of that nature. And then email me. Yep. And then I will get you in touch with Richard, and then you will be able to pick a PDF that he has available for you. You will rock out from there. Super fast, guys, with some announcements that we have coming down the pipeline for Symphony. We are going to be finishing up. I need to charge my phone. We're going to be finishing up June with this stream. In July, speaking of space isolation horror, I will be running. The backers chose for me to run Alien, the RPG. So I will be running a 3-part series of Alien starting on Tuesdays. This will start July 9th, starting at 6:30 p.m. This is an original adventure I wrote right before the pandemic hit. It's pretty delicious. It's pretty terrible, and it's going to be amazing. We have our asset daddy, or our our asset producer, Keeper Carl, is going to be running Alone Against the Dark. That will finalize our Alone Against the Symphony series. And then we have a couple other little small things happening. We're going to throw a sonata in there. It's going to be a surprise sonata, so just stay tuned and stand by. And then you are going to be able to catch both Richard and I in August at Gen Con. So we will both be at Gen Con. I'm super excited. I got to hang out with Richard last year. We hooked up with Matthew Orr. We played Home, the RPG. It was super delicious. It was super amazing. So you'll at least be able to catch us both at that con. Richard,
At
close
Gen
us
Con,
out.
there'll be a 30% chance that if you see one of us, you'll find both of us.
We'll be close.
At least 30%. Once we're in the dealer's column, we have to work radically different booths. Who knows what they are? I'm working at the Plus One EXP booth. Chris will be at the Chaosium booth.
I'll be at the Chaosium booth. But aside from working, if it's downtime, if you yell hard enough around one of us, the other one is near.
You will probably find the other.
We do like this at cons. You will see us running, like literally it's my con spouse. Richard, tell all these gorgeous people where they can find you, the next product that you can that they can support, and then we will go ahead and get out of here.
As my face kind of goes into like dark mode. I am Richard Ruane, and I run Rook Studio. You can find me at Rook Studio on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. No spaces, no dashes, no nothing, just Rook Studio. Or you can go to r-rook.studio. And you can see sort of what I'm up to. The site is sadly a little bit out of date. It doesn't have my most recent game Kickstarter on that, but
that happens.
they'll be going in, and you can find all kinds of stuff there. So that's where to find me.
Amazing. Richard, thank you so much for coming onto the Symphony. Thank you for blessing us with a grant in that last Kickstarter that gave me the ability to pay cast and production. Guys, episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Never Let You Go for Midnight on Roseville Beach is now currently on YouTube. Editing is pristine. Cast absolutely slapped. It's a really heartbreaking story where we really leaned into the dark. So definitely mind the content warnings that are going to be included in the YouTube listing. If you want to connect with Richard and I in person, we're going to see you here in August at Gen Con. And again, if you like this content and you would like to help us make more of it, please consider backing us at patreon.com/Symphony Entertainment. Thank you guys for joining the Symphony, and we hope you have a wonderful night. Mwah. Happy Pride. Take care of yourselves. Love each other.
Happy Pride.
Love yourselves. Mwah. Bye, guys.
Bye.